At an event that definitely wasn't about January 6th, Marjorie Taylor Greene got an award commemorating January 6th.
We like to give people just a token of our county's Republican Party's appreciation. And here's a little award for you, Congresswoman. It says, "She's America's Congresswoman." Yes. It has our Republican logo in the center, and right below it has the date, J6. And if you notice, we couldn't put Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene because it was too long. So we put Congresswoman MTG.
In Central Florida, MTG had an event that, after being canceled twice, finally took place at the Oaks National Golf Club in Kissimmee. She said on social media that the event hadn't been canceled, but 2 previous venues had in fact pulled out of the event after being booked once the venues understood the actual point of the event. It was a book signing that was advertised to be taking place on the 3rd anniversary of January 6th, so it seems like the first 2 venues thought it was just a book signing, but then when they realized that it was an anniversary celebration, they wanted out. And of course, MTG and her associates blamed the cancellations on the Democrats somehow. Mark Cross, the chairman of the Osceola County Republican Party, said that this was all a big misunderstanding and blamed it on miscommunication and disinformation. He said the event was intended as a book signing that would honor Republican women that just happened to be on January 6th. He said, quote, "We're not going out of the way to celebrate January 6th. It's something that happened. It was a negative thing for everyone involved." But then at the same event, Mark Cross, the same chairman, presented Greene with an award that said America's Congresswoman on it, and it also had January 6th engraved on it. So you're not going out of the way to celebrate or commemorate anything having to do with January 6th, you just had it engraved on an award. Getting something engraved is like the definition of going out of your way to do something.
If we have a sea of people, if we shut down the streets, if we shut down everything, if we flood the Capitol building, flood all the government buildings, go inside. These are public buildings. We own them. We own these buildings. Do you understand that? We own the buildings and we pay all the people that work in the building.
And of course, during the event, Greene repeated a lot of the Republican propaganda surrounding January 6th, all of the same things that we've heard before, that it wasn't that violent, that it was a setup, that it was Antifa and Nancy Pelosi who were behind all of it. Now, we know that the things that she's saying aren't true. We've known from the moment that we turned on the news and saw live footage of insurrectionists storming our Capitol that the Republican Party would spin the story in the most maddening way possible. And we knew that they would stick to their story no matter how ridiculous, no matter how easily refutable. We also knew that their supporters would eat all of it up, denying that which is obvious to anyone with functioning eyes, while fabricating narratives of Antifa and BLM and tour groups and patriots. In order for these schemes to work, the buy-in has to be complete. If people like Greene waver or deviate from the story, even in the slightest, the whole thing crumbles. Well, either the narrative crumbles or her career crumbles. It's not a surprise that she's making claims about things and events that are demonstrably untrue. It's not even a surprise that she's gotten an award for it now. But the thing that I take away from this story is that 2 venues thought that they were booking a book signing, and when they realized what they had actually booked, they canceled the event. They said, "I don't want any part of this." And this happened in Florida, which makes it all the more significant. Now, as much as I hate to admit it, there are a lot of cultural and political similarities between Florida and Texas. So whenever I read about things in Florida, I try to read it with empathy as a fellow Southerner. I try to remind myself that people in these areas aren't all bad and that not everyone in Florida is an insurrectionist apologist or a Confederate or even a Republican. All of this happened in Kissimmee and St. Cloud. I've actually been to those places. They're just south of Orlando, and they're about as nice as any sprawling residential suburban place in Central Florida could possibly be. Not to mention, Osceola County is actually blue. So sure, it might have been more impactful if people in red districts recognized that it wouldn't be a good idea to host someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I think it's good that people across the country are reminded that there are Democrats in places like Florida, like Texas, And I can only assume that they're fighting back against their state government. I assume this much because as a Texan, as a Democrat in Texas, I know that we're fighting that same fight. And it's a very slow road, but progress is always happening, and it's always important to remember that and to remind people around the country that this is not a vacuum. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and please check out my podcast, Modern Context. Thanks.